Hi guys, and thank you for tuning in to a new video. Alright, so I switched over to my freaking Android for this one. On my Samsung, I love my iPhone like I really freaking do, but the audio freaking level on that one is always freaking super heavy. It's like always picking up like every freaking thing in the background. Like I love that it's a super freaking awesome microphone system overall, but it picks up so much background audio that in each of the freaking videos it's super choppy. So I had to do like a test freaking sequence on the iPhone. I had to do a test sequence on my Samsung to see which one was able to like record the audio, and then I had to check also if it was like my headphones causing the disturbance. And I learned that I get the same audio feedback using the video feature on my iPhone without the headphones as I do while using the headphones, so the cutouts were caused due to the like mic setup. But you guys have a really like fun video planned for you guys today. It's like at least like fun in my sense. I love the freaking Bill of Rights. I picked a bunch of my freaking favorite Supreme Court cases. These were like the landmark U.S. Supreme Court cases, and I literally had to like print it out because it covered some of my freaking top favorites, and I also had to use them for a course that I took during my associate's degree for criminal justice. I was able to comprise a freaking note section that is literally covering topics that we touch based upon in the custody breakdown, as well as, well, should I say the custodial and non-custodial parental rights plus procedures video, part 1 and 2, and in part 2 we touch base upon prop 1, which will also be mentioned in this video, as we'll refer to the parameters set within the 14th Amendment, which we will kind of touch base upon. I'm thinking I'll start the video off with the Bill of Rights, and then I will work over to the notes section as it covers the 13th through 14th Amendments on my computer. That way I can go through that section and read through those and then do the breakdowns, and then give you guys that great insight that pertains towards our current freaking lives, as the Bill of Rights still currently do. And then we'll reference back towards the landmark Supreme Court cases, as they will kind of tie in with the Prop 1 proposal and the right to one's body, and overall the vote that was passed over the past few years pertaining towards Roe v. Wade being overturned. Okay guys, so without further ado, we're going to do like the super fun section, which is the Bill of Rights, which is like one of my favorites because you can literally just read through all of them. You get to kind of really get the breakdown of what each amendment truly was written and stated as. This is the original form as provided within the freaking, the Bill of Rights section. And in doing so, I'll go through my like little snippet notes that I added while studying these for the course that I was taking, and I literally just made sure to like add like the brief snippets so I didn't forget each of them, because it was like one of those things where you kind of had to know each of the Bill of Rights while freaking like completing the assignment. So I literally added little note snippets so I wouldn't forget what each pertained towards and what were the main ones, where it's like, when you hear your First Amendment right, it's like, that's freedom of speech. But I was like, I'll just add like a little note for that one. That way I literally don't go like, well, was that one of the other ones? Because I think I've taken a total of maybe like around like 10 courses or so that have covered the freaking like Bill of Rights. So in doing so, I've literally gotten the freaking basis of it kind of like set within my mindset. But beforehand, it was still like kind of one of those things I was like, like I feel like I'm hearing it again, but I still feel as though jotting down notes and setting quick reference points will help towards remembering what the right truly stands for, rather than going by what I believe it stands for. Like, when you hear something and you're like, oh yeah, that's like, let's see, I can't even think of like a reference in the moment, but I could do like a paraphrase, kind of like joke segment. So it's like, you kind of like look over at something and you're kind of like, yeah, I get that. And then that bringing references towards blah, 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 blah. And then in doing so, you kind of check what it actually stands for, and it's like, you know, I was kind of close, but I didn't actually hit the nail on the head covering the major basis of it. So it's like I'll set little like note segments. So in shortening the breakdown of what each amendment stands for, I still have the breakdown to cover what the amendment is set to protect. Okay, so let's start with the First Amendment. The First Amendment states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the rights of the people peaceably to assemble. Sorry, I'm gonna reread that one that way. I don't like break it down because I saw the rights of the people. It's like emphasis. It's like needed for that. Or the rights of the people peaceably to assemble, and in that statement it literally covers the right to have peaceful protests, peaceful rallies, and to literally come together for a stand. So as with the Roe v. Wade situation, there were a lot of peaceful protests and rallies to kind of draw attention towards the situation. And in doing so, it was set to kind of create unity and emphasize the freedom of speech that is ingrained within our Bill of Rights, that is a right that we are each entitled to. And in doing so, we also took a stand to fight for the other right, which is the right to one's body. And to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So if there are any kind of stances that must be touched based upon and the people call for it to be re-examined, they want a stance to take in which is set towards preserving the rights that we are entitled to. So if there are any unfair laws made, we literally have to reference back towards major laws that we've said that not only protect the rights that were given to those who set the law in force, but also the rights of the people that may be infringed upon. All right, so my notes for the First Amendment included the breakdown. So I literally just made this one super brief. Free speech, because whenever we reference to the First Amendment, we always reference towards the freedom of speech, and then in doing so, we're always like, well, you know, then there's the freedom of press, there's the freedom to freaking speak again. But in freedom to speak again, the second notion is always geared more towards the right to, you know, rally, the right to freaking have a public assembly, to take a stand, and in doing so, they all fall within the parameters of your freedom to speak and state your opinion. But within our modern freaking day, something that I've truly loved is freedom of speech has been granted to the people, but there are parameters set that protect the rights of the individuals. So in allowing everyone to have the freedom to speak their mind, which is freaking great, we had to set limits to protect the rights of the individuals. So in cases pertaining towards hate crimes and discrimination, we've literally kind of like stepped up the freaking major basis of that to literally limit it. So it's a really great thing in itself. You can finally have children within this country without literally feeling it. So if they're bullied, you know, what do you have to do? Do you have to freaking fight the system to make sure that your child is treated well? If your child is bullied based off of their freaking gender identity, their sexual orientation, or their race, you know, what can I do to protect the rights of my child? There are laws in place. Those are literally things that would fall within the parameters of a hate crime. So you are now able to have the legal backing of the courts. So the unbiased freaking judge, or should I say the unbiased team that will be working towards creating that plan to get you the justice that you deserve, now has the right to do so without having to go through the rule books all over again to find a freaking standpoint that they can have while being unbiased and serving to get you the justice that you deserve, which has been something great. It's something that truly doesn't limit freedom of speech, but it sets a standard for the freedom of speech. That way others are not, others are not placed in situations where their stances and how they feel, how they've developed to be as an individual, who they are, won't be infringed upon. You know, giving others the freedom to speak is something that is literally it's something in itself that we all have and we all share. But in using that right against others, it's kind of something that sets a standard of no, we don't freaking stand for equality and the rights of all for others to have their rights infringed upon. But this is something that I thought was super freaking interesting about the development of the First Amendment into the modern day and the rules and regulations that we've set to protect the rights of the individual. The Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, this is like a favorite amongst our freaking nation, shall not be infringed. And for the small snippet note freaking breakdown for this one, I did the right to military protection and to bear arms. So in trying to remember what the Second Amendment truly stands for, just remember it is the right to military protection and the right to bear arms. So in saying, you know, my Second Amendment right is my right to bear arms, it really is, but also remember what it stands for and preserve the right that you were given. So in doing so, don't freaking, you know, grab a freaking gun and then freaking like go out and, you know, forget that, you know, you need to have a permit for it. You can't just freaking go around shooting people. You can't literally just freaking threaten somebody with a freaking gun and go, well, you know, it's my right to freaking bear arms. Like, no, you have to literally stay within the parameters of the laws and regulations that we have set in force to ensure that acts of the past that were taking place due to the rights that were given to each of our citizens do not take place again. So we can't have people like literally holding each other hostage, shooting their freaking neighbors, and then everybody just moves on after because nobody's talking about it. You know, it's a modern day. We have freaking DNA. We'll freaking find the person who killed him, and then it's going to be that reminder to you that we don't live in the freaking 1700s. You can't freaking pull out your freaking firearm, shoot your freaking neighbor Jim Bob because Jim Bob, you know, got on your freaking nerves or slept with their wife, and then just move on after. Like, no, you committed a freaking murder. You will face the freaking charges. You will have to go through the criminal freaking prosecution freaking standards same as every freaking other citizen, and you have to literally take each right that you're given with a grain of salt and be mindful of the regulations set in force to protect the rights of every citizen within the country. The Third Amendment. No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any home without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. So that one basically states no lawful entry of soldiers unto any home whatsoever. So there's never a freaking situation where there's like a war where any soldier can literally just pop up and go, you know, I'm staying here. Like, you know, the freaking ideal freaking cop scene where they pop up like, I'm commandeering your vehicle, I've got to get that guy over there, and then you're like, oh my god, like, no, that's my car, and then they freaking just drive off, and then they freaking go chase the bad guy, flip your freaking car over, everything's freaking cray, and then they freaking catch the bad guy in the end, and everybody's just like, well, you know, that's like the one scene in the movie that always gets me. Like, it's super freaking cute, it's super interesting, and it's always like that freaking, you know, I'm commandeering your vehicle, but it's like, you can't freaking just really take somebody's freaking car, total it, the car got freaking like shot up like a million freaking times, and then it's just like, you know, they're just over there like, you know, my car, like every time, and it's just like, okay, that's a bit much, but that falls within the parameters of the freaking law, where you can't literally just pop up like, you know, I'm a soldier, or should I say you just pop up in your uniform, you have like your freaking you have your freaking emblems, and you're like, you know, I'm a soldier, I need to stay here, and this is going to be the spot where I stay safe. It's like, no, not unless you are invited and welcome into the home, you are not allowed to do so. The Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be secure in their persons. This one was a really freaking great one, and I believe I believe it was the 4th through the 7th Amendment, as expected. Or 4th through 8th, that I ended up having to cover for a few assignments because they were like literally like, I believe a few had them as a requirement to cover the 4th through 5th. No, actually, we did each of them, and we had to literally like memorize them and then write a paper on them after. But the fourth through seventh covered a major basis for no, the fourth through eighth covered a major basis for like the freaking set that was like throughout the entire freaking course, and then into the following course after. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So, this freaking amendment basically states the rights to one's person, self, and things, they're all preserved within this right. So, all standards of this is I would rather not be searched. I don't want my things to be searched. I don't want you to take my things, and falls within the parameters of this law. So it kind of goes beyond the scope of the law enforcement breakdown, which is a major freaking basis where this law is brought into place. But in any other situation, you can literally freaking reference, like if you're freaking in a situation where you have somebody like going through your stuff in your house, and they're freaking say it's like a family member or a friend, and they're freaking like going through your stuff, they're freaking invading your freaking personal space, and they're violating your rights, and you kind of let's say, we'll set it to the standard of you have a friend, your friend freaking breaks, it's like going through your stuff in your house while you're like in the other room, and then you find out later that they freaking like went through your stuff, they freaking like started like taking pictures of things, and it's like it's like a violation. It causes like a bunch of freaking drama, and let's say it like ruins your freaking relationship. You're like taking them to court for like something such as like emotional distress and freaking a violation of freaking privacy. And then in the midst of it, they take something from your house because they're like, I've got this, I've got you on this one, and you know what? I'm gonna take a freaking souvenir just to be a freaking douchebag because I already got you. Then you've got them on freaking theft. So it's theft, and then you can add in the freaking, emotional distress, and literally in doing so, you can literally add the freaking basis of the infringement upon your Fourth Amendment right. They literally went through your stuff without your freaking permission. They've seized your freaking property, which will be included within the theft parameters because they didn't seize it under the freaking Probable Cause Act. They literally seized it under the freaking like civilian theft freaking, basis, and doing so and caught up in the freaking drama and spiel of it. But you're entitled to freaking, bring it up and reference it in different situations to feel as though you can add your mindful notion to a lot of things that take place within your life. Let's see. No searches and seizures without a warrant, guys. So be mindful of that. That's why this amendment is referenced a lot during major cases where these rights are violated. So when going through the amendment rights, you'll freaking kind of like get why you hear them so often. Whenever a Bill of Rights freaking amendment right is freaking violated, it's always a big deal because these are the laws and standards that all of us are set to live by, and the rights that each of us are entitled to. The Fifth Amendment. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia. When in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense, double jeopardy, guys. You guys like literally love this one, to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. So you can't literally be held accountable to be like a witness against yourself to like incriminate yourself. Which is why most lawyers will say, we're not going to call you to the stand to incriminate yourself. But if you choose to do so, then you are giving up your right, and your right that is like preserved within the Fifth Amendment. Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. So there's no way to literally like persecute you, prosecute you, or hold you accountable without the process of due process, without the, yeah, okay, I'm just gonna add that there, without the process of due process being brought forth. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So we can literally just take your private property without compensating you for the use of said property. The Sixth Amendment covers: in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. This one is a favorite also. By an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed. So if you commit a crime in any area, you have to literally go through your criminal proceedings within that region, within that area in which you've committed the crime. So in a lot of cases, there's like, what if I freaking want to like rob a store and then go on the run after, and then it's like when they freaking like figure out that it's you, when they freaking like go through the freaking footage and ask around and collect evidence, and they figure out it was that guy, and it's like now there's a warrant out for you. Once the warrant is issued, you are set to be prosecuted within the same region and district in which you committed the crime. So always be mindful of that. There is always that notion of you being extradited to the location in which you've committed said crime. Let's see. Which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him. We're calling this witness to the stand to help us prove this case overall. So be mindful that that is always a standard for any type of given case. Witnesses are to be called forth to prove the validity of the case against you. To have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor. So you are able to literally work with your legal team to have a guided have a guided team of witnesses on your side to help prove your innocence, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. So you are entitled to have legal counsel. You are entitled to the right to build a team of witnesses to prove your innocence also. So there isn't just the notion of, having a lawyer work towards freaking building this entire team of witnesses to prove your guilt. You are also entitled to have an entire freaking team of witnesses to prove your innocence. There are character witnesses to work towards proving your innocence and protecting your character as an individual by telling their stories that reference towards who you are as an individual, and also that have your alibi, that can discredit other witnesses that tell statements that are untrue, that they are kind of set to kind of tell the story in the sake of hoping to freaking tarnish your reputation. Having a team of witnesses that can literally help prove your innocence can make or break your case. So always be mindful of that when working towards any type of freaking legal case against you. If you want to win it, work towards winning it. The Seventh Amendment. In suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right to trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. And this one I literally was like, okay, that one just sounded super freaking weird. I ended up having to do more research into that because I was like, I feel like I kind of get it, but I really just want to make sure I hit that one literally on the head. That one pertains towards protection against double jeopardy, again, as referenced in the Fifth Amendment. So the same offense twice, and for the Seventh Amendment, it's literally the amendment set towards literally preserving that entire raid. So instead of having it kind of like lumped in with a bunch of other freaking breakdowns and protectorates, the 7th Amendment literally will protect you from double jeopardies. The 8th Amendment, and this one was, I literally started, I believe it was because it was like one of my favorites, or because it was like referenced in the freaking like course that I was taking. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. So this is the amendment that protects everybody from excessive bail fees that they cannot possibly ever freaking pay. Your bail amounts will be set based off of your income, what you can actually like pay, your assets that you can freaking liquidate to freaking use as a payment to cover your freaking bail amount, so much more. Nor excessive fines imposed that you would not possibly ever be able to pay, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. We are not going to literally like hold you captive and like literally like torture you. That's something that is not within our parameter of things that are okay here. So there is that protectorate instilled for each of you. So always be mindful. If anything like that ever happens, your 8th Amendment right has been violated. The 9th Amendment. The enumeration of the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. This one basically states protection of rights of citizens granted by the Constitution and local laws. They are each to be preserved, enforced, and used to protect you in any cases where you kind of have to have that reference point. Where is the stand for me? I feel as though I am being freaking persecuted against in this trial. Where are my protectorates? Your protectorates are ingrained within our laws and regulations. So we always tell you guys, if you need a lawyer, get a lawyer, okay? They'll literally help you understand the rights that you're entitled to. The 10th Amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Now for this one I had to literally like make a freaking side notion of it because I was like, that one sounds pretty straightforward, but it's kind of worded in a way where it's like kind of like, like, do I get it? Like when I read through it a bunch of times, I was like, I get it, but then I was like, in the wording and the phrasing of it, I was like, kind of like, do I really get it? Like, why did you guys took like plain English and literally went like full on like, like, let's make it even like snazzier, let's make this sound even more brainy, and in doing so you literally freaking just made it sound freaking weird. So this one basically states law, regulation not protected or stated by the Constitution are left to the people and states to ratify. And in understanding that one, it kind of helps with the freaking overturning of Roe v. Wade, as we are finishing up with the Bill of Rights, and then I'm going to do the 13th and 14th Amendments, and then cover Prop 1, and then we'll hit our landmark Supreme Court cases. New laws are voted upon and approved at the DC level, and as cases are overturned at the Supreme Court level that have protectorates such as Roe v. Wade, and Roe v. Wade is going to be the major one that I use as the basis for this, and the statement before where new laws are created and set in place, it is up to each state individually to ratify the new laws, but as it is up to each state to ratify the new laws, as we are in a democratic society, must be voted upon by the people before the new laws can be enacted and ratified. So if you ever see any laws that you're kind of like, what the heck is going on? Why is that law accepted here? Damn that freaking government. Each citizen within the United States works as a member of our democratic assembly, our democratic society, and our democratic voting voices. So each law within your given region, if you move from one place to another place and you move into the new region, you become a freaking voter within that democratic region where you have a say and you will vote upon the new rights and regulations. In doing so, the new laws and regulations are set forth by the people, and the rights of the people are created by literally, well, should I say, are ratified by the people. The rights and regulations are created by our people also, but the ratification process is determined by each vote that is cast pertaining towards any freaking subject that is placed before us. So always pay attention to freaking new votes. We literally have new votes every freaking year, guys. So always be mindful that there is a potential chance that there will be something brought forth that'll be freaking shown in advertisements everywhere. And they'll literally tell you like every freaking different facet of the new freaking laws, and you can always do your research to kind of understand them more. And in researching Prop 1, I got a lot more insight pertaining towards it, where it kind of went beyond the general scope of what was freaking stated. It was stated to be this freaking law that was like set towards like abortion rights, but when you actually do your research pertaining towards Prop 1, it's actually it's a regulation that kind of is more geared towards mental health and mental well-being assistance programs throughout our freaking state, and then just freaking being blindsided or freaking given the short-sighted brief notes freaking breakdown of it, you would think that you're literally just choosing yes or no to vote for the right to have an abortion, but you are not. If you choose to vote no on this freaking right, you're choosing to freaking vote no on a bill that has $6 billion geared towards improving mental health and well-being and freaking helping the homeless throughout the freaking state and so many other standards. And it's like, in not doing your research, you'll be freaking blindsided by how much a freaking vote no on something can really freaking affect something that is geared towards prevailing the people forward. And then in voting yes on certain things because you were like given like a short-sighted amount of information, you could be voting yes on something that is literally geared towards freaking ratifying things that we have already set in place. Like for the reference that I made in the freaking custodial and non-custodial rights and procedures video part 2, I referenced towards the 13th Amendment and how it was placed on the ballot for our freaking 2024 presidential election. And in doing so, it's like we're voting for the right, we're voting to like literally end or continue with slavery within our prison systems. And in doing so, it's kind of like that notion to kind of look back towards the laws that we have within our country. The 13th Amendment was set to preserve the rights of the individual. Actually, that is our next section, so I'll literally go through that one and then I'll reference back towards local things that are going on here in our freaking lovely state of California and the freaking recent vote that we just did. The 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution abolished slavery in the United States and its territories, with the exception of as a punishment for a crime. Let's see. So the text states, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime whereof the parties shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction, such as territories. Ratification. It was ratified on December 6, 1865. The impact, it made 4 million slaves free, guys. Freaking progress. Section 2 of the 13th Amendment states, Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. It must be voted upon by each state. In doing so, the democratic voice portion that I mentioned to you before is preserved. So you each must vote upon the right to have, each time it is like kind of like reference towards, or each time the freaking 13th Amendment has been used to enforce slavery throughout our country, there has been a notion of the people to literally vote upon it again and kind of take that right away, or to continue with enforcing the right to enslave those who have committed a crime. The 13th Amendment also gave Congress the power to enforce the amendment through legislation. So, through the votes passed as the notion to vote is worked upon by legislation to allow the people to have a say in whether it should be kind of like taken out because it's already been voted upon or whether it should be kept. And let's see, so taken out because it's already been voted upon or kept by a vote of the people that the mass majority sets to preserve. Here are some other details about the 13th Amendment. The Senate passed the 13th Amendment on April 8th, 1864, with a vote of 38 to 6. Everybody was kind of just like, let's kind of like handle the situation before it gets any messier. Yeah. President Lincoln was heavily involved in the legislative process, inviting representatives to his office to discuss the amendment. He also pressured unionists in border states to change their position on the amendment. In 2020, Democrats pushed for an abolition amendment to close the slavery loophole in the 13th Amendment. So recent freaking efforts have kind of like been set towards literally just fully abolishing it. So rather than having the loophole where you can be enslaved due to a crime committed, the plan is to fully abolish it. That way, there is no standard in which it is preserved, meaning there is no loophole that kind of like leaves us feeling as though we're like kind of like airheads. It's like, we learn about it in school and we're like, oh, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery. And then your teacher's like, no, read the rest of that. And you're like, no, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery. And that's the only part we have to remember. And then it's like later in life when we have freaking moments like us, it's like, oh, yeah, as for those who read the rest of it like I did, it's like I know that it's like, it's a set standard that is preserved up until imprisonment. But for people who don't know that, we're probably looking at the ballot like, what the heck do you mean? We're voting upon slavery in the freaking prison system. Like, that's what the heck is going on? And then in doing so, it's like, well, let's literally just fully just abolish that because that was a loophole added within the law like nearly 200 freaking years ago that allowed for slavery to be preserved due to incarceration. It's like, it's a bit of a no-no. You're kind of making us like out to be the bad guys in the future. Alright, so now we're going to touch base upon the 14th Amendment, and in doing so, we get to reference towards a bunch of freaking Supreme Court cases that I actually have on file. Alright, let's see, guys. I'm gonna get my freaking notes section extremely organized. That way we can freaking reference towards each that is present within this portion. The 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution guarantees equal protection under the law and citizenship to all people born or naturalized in the United States. But there's so much more to it, and we're going to do the breakdowns of each parameters of the 14th Amendment. That way you can fully understand all the protectorates that are enforced within this and all the cases in which the 14th Amendment rights have been violated that set the precedents for the future and set the people to rally for change. So in the citizenship aspect, the amendment grants citizenship to all people born and naturalized in the United States, including formerly enslaved people. Equal protection. The amendment prohibits states from denying equal protection under the law to anyone within their jurisdiction. Due process. The amendment prohibits states from depriving anyone of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Voting rights. The amendment authorizes the government to reduce a state's representation in Congress if the state abridges citizens' right to vote. Former office holders. The amendment prohibits former civil and military office holders who supported the Confederacy from holding any state or federal office. So this is kind of to limit the amount of backstepping that would have taken place post the 13th Amendment and post the Civil War. That way there wasn't a freaking major hiccup where you're kind of like bringing in people from the freaking like Confederacy that were ready to literally go, well, let's just, kind of work on what we were working on down there and kind of just, let's fix that slavery amendment. Let's get rid of that one. Oh, okay, there we go. Slavery's back, bitch. And it's like, no, let's not have that. And let's ensure that the rights of the people are still preserved. That way, instead of moving backwards, we are constantly moving forward and ending all of the freaking tyranny that took place while we worked to form our country into the country that it is today. Enforcement. The amendment grants Congress the power to enforce the amendment. The 14th Amendment is considered one of the most important amendments to the Constitution. It has been the basis for landmark Supreme Court case decisions, including, and this is when I get to reference over towards the notes section, Brown v. Board of Education, 1954. Brown v. Board of Education stated, as the issue being, do racially segregated public schools violate the Equal Protection Clause? And the Equal Protection Clause was stated after citizenship as a parameter of the 14th Amendment. Result, yes. A unanimous court overturned Plessy v. Ferguson and held that state laws requiring or allowing racially segregated schools violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. The court famously stated separate educational facilities are inherently unequal. The importance behind the case is as follows. The Brown decision is held as a landmark decision in Supreme Court history, overturning Plessy v. Ferguson in 1896, which had created the separate but equal doctrine. In Plessy, the court held that even though a Louisiana law required rail passengers to be segregated based on race, there was no violation of the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause so long as the accommodations at issue were separate but equal. By overturning this doctrine, the Brown Court helped lay the ground for the civil rights movement and integration across the country. Loving v. Virginia, 1967. Now that one I didn't reference towards. I didn't actually add a note section for that one. So if you guys want to go check that one out, go check that one out. That's another major Supreme Court case. Now this one, I literally, the reason I didn't kind of like do the other two that are going to be referenced throughout that one and then the other one is referenced in this one is because the major two that I already had in my printout section from my freaking course that I was taking a few years ago were the major ones that pertain towards like a lot of things that have taken place over the past few years. So the next one is Roe v. Wade, 1973. Roe v. Wade. The issue, does the Constitution prohibit laws that severely restrict or deny a woman's access to abortion? The result, yes. The court concluded that such laws violate the Constitution's right to privacy. The court held that under the 14th Amendment Due Process Clause, states may only restrict abortions towards the end of a pregnancy in order to protect the life of the woman or the fetus. Importance. Roe has become a centerpiece in the battle over abortion rights, both in the public and in front of the courts. And the final notion reference is the Obergefell v. Hodges 2015 case. Alright, you guys, so that's going to finish up our segment pertaining towards the Bill of Rights and major Supreme Court cases. And then I'm going to touch base more upon like major Supreme Court cases later and go through each notion that I've added within that portion, and then I'll also freaking reference towards the new ones that have been referenced in this video. and kind of just really create like a mega list to kind of help you guys understand some of the major Supreme Court cases that have taken place recently. One sec, my friend's calling. Hey, Jules. Okay, nice. Okay, I'm working on a new one. I'll call you in like 10 minutes. I'm like almost done. I love you. Bye. Okay, so we're going to finish this off with Proposition 1. And with the notes that I've literally been able to comprise, I can literally just like read through the entire thing without having to freaking reference outside of the text and outside of the notes. So this one will be fun and I'll be able to breeze through it, and again hopefully finish one within the freaking hour mark, but we were at 45 minutes, so this one might actually hit the hour mark. What is Proposition 1? And this would be one that I reference towards, where instead of referencing towards the right to one's body and abortion rights, I actually got the major basis behind what Proposition 1 actually covered, and then after we'll go into the portion that pertained towards the right to one's body. Proposition 1 was passed by California voters in March of 2024. The two-bill package, Senate Bill SB 326, Eggman Chapter 797. I'll kind of like skip like the freaking chapter breakdowns. It kind of gives like reference points to kind of read more towards that. Proposed statewide efforts to reform and expand California's behavioral health system, and was put on the ballot by the California State Legislature and the governor. DHCS refers to the implementation of these changes as behavioral health transformation. Proposition 1 consists of two parts, the Behavioral Health Services Act and the Behavioral Health Bond, and both aspects are included. That way you get a full, thorough breakdown as towards what you guys actually voted for, and there are a lot of great parameters, which I am glad that it wasn't freaking derailed by the entire freaking abortion rights. I'm for abortion, I'm not for abortion. This freaking proposition covered a lot more than just abortion, so it's like so shocking that that was like the major thing that we were all set to focus on. What is the Behavioral Health Services Act? The Behavioral Health Services Act replaces the Mental Health Services Act of 2004. It reformed behavioral health care funding to prioritize services for people with the most significant mental health needs, while adding the treatment of substance use disorders, SUD, expanding housing interventions, and increasing the behavioral health workforce. It also enhances oversight, transparency, and accountability at the state and local levels. Additionally, the Behavioral Health Services Act creates pathways to ensure equitable access to care by advancing equity and reducing disparities for individuals with behavioral health needs. It is one part of Proposition 1. The breakdown for the Behavioral Health Bond. The Behavioral Health Bond authorizes $6.4 billion, as I stated before, in bonds to finance behavioral health treatment beds, supportive housing, community sites, and funding for housing veterans with behavioral health needs. $4.4 billion of these funds will be administered to DHCS for grants to public and private entities for behavioral health treatment and residential settings. $1.5 billion of the $4.4 billion will be awarded only to counties, cities, and tribal entities, with $30 million set aside for tribes. The remaining $1.972 billion will be administered by the California Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD, to support permanent supportive housing for individuals at risk of or experiencing homelessness and behavioral health challenges. Of that amount, $1.065 billion will be for veterans. All these efforts will leverage effective existing programs, including the Behavioral Health Continuum Infrastructure Program, BHCIP, Project Home Key, and Veterans Housing and Homeless Prevention Program, BHHP. This is the other part of Proposition 1. And to conclude it, oh my god, look, you guys are gonna do this in under an hour. Proposition 1 will ensure that people have the freedom to make their own medical decisions with their healthcare providers based on scientific facts, not a political agenda. And as stated on the. Oh gosh, one sec, you guys. I want to freaking reference this one and make sure we hit it on the T, and then I'm going to reference towards a tad bit of the protection for abortion rights also. Gosh. Okay, so protectabortionca.com stated Prop 1 ensures access to affordable, comprehensive reproductive health care, including abortion and access to contraceptives, allows people to plan their lives and achieve their dreams no matter what the conservative United States Supreme Court has decided. We must continue to ensure that here in California, healthcare is a right. Prop 1 would add the right into our state constitution and give the voters the chance to weigh in this November. And then the notion to kind of, join others to rally towards the fight included join our fight to protect the fundamental right to control your body, including whether to have an abortion, by voting yes on 1 this November. Alright, now to finish it off, and I'm going to try to do this in like less than 5 minutes. We're going to go through the breakdown of the overview for protect abortion rights, yes on 1. So the overview. The conservative Supreme Court is undermining the right to an abortion, which result in states across the country banning access to safe, affordable reproductive health care, creating insurmountable challenges in many communities. We need to act now to ensure abortions remain safe and legal in California, and that important healthcare decisions are left to a person and their provider with the backing of science and evidence-based medicine, not written by a political agenda. Prop 1 will add the right to an abortion directly into the California state constitution to ensure that in California, people continue to have the power to control their own bodies and personal decisions. And I was like, oh my gosh, nice. Let's see. Okay, I believe I did this one also. I was like picking which points will be great to add for this one. Affirming abortion rights in California. Prop 1 will amend the state constitution to explicitly prohibit the state from denying or interfering with personal choices related to reproductive care. It declares that individuals have a fundamental right to choose to have an abortion and to use or refuse contraceptives. Why case law isn't enough. This one was the major notion that I will be ending the video on, ending the freaking note section and overview on, and then I'll end the video briefly after. Although California law provides meaningful protections for reproductive rights against state interference, the option from the U.S. Supreme Court highlights how California would no longer be able to rely on long-standing federal protections, expressly stating a fundamental right to abortion in the state constitution will protect against potential future attacks at the federal level and from courts down the line. Additionally, the opinion previews how the court plans to erode privacy principles under the U.S. Constitution, which protects some of our most basic human rights. So preserving the rights of the individual to their own body and towards the right of the say to what is just for the individual. Alright, you guys, so thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys love this one as much as I freaking love doing the research for it and connecting all of my freaking old notes from my criminal justice freaking degree towards freaking bringing this entire freaking thing together, and also being able to connect it to recent events that took place during our freaking election season this year. It was super fun working on it, and I love you guys so much, and I'm so happy that you guys tuned in. Please go check out our freaking social platforms. We are on Instagram, DKHLegalAid. We are on X, DKHLegalAid, and we are also on TikTok, dkh.legal.aid. And you can also go check out our website and book us for a legal consultation, as well as booking us for an educational consultation for our non-native English learners and those looking to improve their literacy, proficiency skills, and who need any guidance with any aspect. I love you guys so much. I will talk to you later.